Hi, welcome back to my author commentary for Prince of Song and Shade. Today we are diving into chapter 3, which is actually a pretty rich chapter, even though not too much happens. So we ended in the last chapter with Shia Thornhill wanting Talyn to come back to the Callinan to carry out a mission for them against the criminal organisation Vengeance, to which Talyn said hard pass and stalked out. And now this chapter, Talyn's off to visit Lark Ceannar, thinking that he's avoiding her return by not being at the Kingshield barracks when she got back from Mithranar. But she arrives at his estate to find that the reason he wasn't there is because he's actually meeting with the king and his son. So Talyn gets a moment with those two to say hello and greet her family. And then it's a long conversation between Talyn and Lark Ceannar where Talyn learns quite a few interesting things about the history of the Dumnorix family and the implications of that potentially for Prince Cuinn and for the rest of her family, which leaves her at the end of the chapter in quite a sticky position. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So we got to we've met Arthane before in the early stages of A Tale of Stars and Shadow, but in this book, in this scene now, we get to introduce his eldest son, his only son, Aeris, the 13-year-old boy, who is very much like his father, very kind of stern and grave and slow thinking and deep thinking rather than slow thinking. But delighted to see Talyn. They have the immediate bond, obviously, of Dumnorix family members. She's equally delighted to see him. And again, spoiler warning, these author commentaries will include spoilers not only for A Prince of Song and Shade, but also for the remaining 2 books in the series. So again, please, if you don't want spoilers, then now's the time to tune out and probably wait to watch these author commentaries until you've finished the full series. But by the end of this series, as we all know, Aeris becomes king of the Twin Thrones at the tender age of 15 years old. And while that is quite young and while the circumstances of that aren't ideal, I think Aeris, if anyone was going to be taking the throne at such a young age, Aeris is probably one who's able to succeed at that. But that's for future chapters to discuss. So we get that brief chat between Talyn and her family, promises to come and see them for dinner. And then a conversation between her and Ceannar. There are a few different themes that kind of start coming out here in that conversation. The first is touching on the history between Firthland and the Twin Thrones, in which the Twin Thrones now has sovereignty over Firthland. And while the Dumnorix monarchs have essentially given them mostly free reign in ruling their country, they still, at the end of the day, have ultimate rule and ultimate authority over what Firthland does, which many Firthlanders remain unhappy about, and of course is the reason why things come to a head as they do in this series, because Tarkos and his collaborators in Firthland want to remove the yoke of the Twin Thrones and rule themselves in Firthland. And that's what the cause of kind of all the problems and the troubles, or many of them, that come to a head in this series. And we touch on that because the reason Aeris and Arthane are there to speak to Lark Ceannar, the First Shield, is because Aeris is travelling to Samatia soon to undertake fostering with the noble house, the warlord of Firthland, as has become custom for Dumnorix family members, kind of a gesture that the Twin Thrones makes towards Firthland and the fact that they do hold sovereignty over them. But it just touches on, for readers, that kind of bubbling away unhappiness that is going to kind of break open. Then we also have the fact that Talyn's interaction with Ceannar in this chapter is miles different from that scene in the beginning of A Tale of Stars and Shadow, where he assigns her the mission to Mithranar and essentially backs her into a corner because of her lack of confidence, because of the grief she's facing, because she's been deliberately kind of avoiding being posted as a King's Shield. He's able to leverage her and use that pressure to force her into accepting the mission. Right from the beginning of this conversation, however, Talyn is like, I am not in that position anymore. I am doing much better. You cannot blackmail or pressure or coerce me. This is a different Talyn. And to Lark's credit, he's pleased. He's pleased to see this change in Talyn. He's not angsty about it. He's not upset. He's not annoyed. He's pleased that Talyn is kind of coming back to herself, which is another nice little moment there. But then he spills the history of how Cuinn is a Dumnorix, of why he's in Mithranar, and the little family secret that Elendor Dumnorix, who founded the Twin Thrones after defeating the Firthlander High King, Firthlander Warlord, Viscaran, is not actually the eldest child of his parents. There was an elder, legitimate child, Rhianna Dumnorix, a sister, who actually had a more legitimate claim to the throne, to the Twin Thrones that Elendor founded at the end of that war. But she chose to step aside for there were many circumstances at play, and this is a book that I have written, a series that I have written. It's one of the first things I ever wrote, and it's how A Tale of Stars and Shadow came to be, because I wrote A Tale of Stars and Shadow as a sequel to this very first kind of epic fantasy series that I wrote. It will be published one day. It's definitely on the agenda. So you will get to see what happened with Elendor and Rhianna and all of that at some point. But essentially, Rhianna stepped aside, retired away from the Twin Thrones in Mithranar, married a Mithranan prince, and that is Cuinn's bloodline. So Talyn kind of hears all this and reels, because theoretically, in principle, this is a threat, potential threat to Arthane's rule, her family's rule, because they come from a different branch of the Dumnorix tree. And she now feels very stuck in the middle with what she knows, both from the Caledon side and the King's Shield side, and this family secret. And she's the one holding all this information. And as Sari kind of pointedly says to her at the end of this chapter, like, just, you have the solution here. You can act on all of this without necessarily betraying everyone's secrets. Go back to Mithranar, do what the Caledon are asking you to do. And Talyn still isn't seeing that as an option, because for her, rejoining the Caledon is not an option, will never be an option. And until she kind of can separate those two things, I think she's unable to even consider it, which is understandable. So we finished that chapter with Talyn reeling a little bit, feeling very stuck in the middle, and with a lot of decisions to make in front of her. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. Like I said, it's a pretty rich chapter, even though not a lot happens, because you learn a lot of different things that are going to inform what happens next in this series. And I love kind of writing those scenes where I can put those little seeds in that kind of grow into bigger storylines later. That's always a lot of fun for me. I hope you're enjoying learning about all of it as well. And I look forward to seeing you soon for chapter 4. All right. Have a great day.